Welcome into this week's episode of Jacket Sports Weekly. We got a lot to unpack. We're starting it off with golf, tennis, and cross country with Joe Cirillo. Then we're going into volleyball with Ethan Spazarski, football with Mike McKenzie, and finishing off with soccer with Luke Andrusic. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome to Jacket Sports Weekly, Waynesburg University's weekly sports show where we cover the best of the best in athletics. Our analysts discuss a multitude of highlight plays such as touchdown passes.
And Barber's going to throw again, one-on-one. Does he got it in him? That's a catch! Tyler Richmond with flags thrown everywhere makes the catch! Touchdown, Waynesburg!
And ones.
This was low, Waynesburg's going to get it! Suggs is going to pull away here, go for the layup, and it's going to fall in and one! PJ Suggs!
And home runs.
Higgins drives one to left field. The left fielder running back, and that ball is out of here. Grace Higgins.
Join us every Wednesday to see what's new in Waynesburg University athletics.
We're here with another week of full action Jacket Sports. I'm Seth Adams. I'm your host for today. And for this segment, we're talking about cross country, tennis, and golf. Now, men's and women's cross country, men's and women's golf, and women's tennis. And with me, I have Joe Cirillo, talking about all of that stuff today. Now, we got to unpack a lot. Let's start with cross country. Let's talk about the men's and the women's too while we're at it. So to recap, they played the PAC preview. The men finished 10th out of 13th. The women finished 8 out of 12. Joe, who are some people that we saw, who are some athletes that we saw really stand out in this one?
A lot of the competitors were doing very, very well for what they were doing. They were up against D1, D2, D3, and junior college competitors throughout the entirety of the race. So it really did come down to just really personal performance. You're not really putting yourself up against those D1 or D2 athletes, but you just want to put in your best time possible. For the women's side of the racing, you had Erin Belleville, that finished 34th overall and had a time of 26:28. Taylor Severett finished behind her for Waynesburg at 72nd place with a 27:50 time. So a lot of those women's racers, competitors there, had a really hard time kind of placing well, but they placed well for themselves. The time shows good for them, but just the number doesn't really. But that's also because of, again said, those D1, D2, D3 athletes. When you look at the men's side, they had 307 total points. Nikki Todd really placed very well with a 40th placement, 28:40 time. Ethan Wilson notched in at 140 with a 33:14, and Kyle Casella at 134 with a 33:23. And so, although those aren't their best times that we've seen throughout their entire year, especially from Casella, that's one of his lesser times throughout his entirety of his career. It's one thing that we just look to at that Dickinson event, which we'll get into here.
Yeah, I was just about to mention the Dickinson long and short invitational. What can we kind of see in this one coming up this weekend?
I mentioned Kyle Casella. Casella, I think, is going to have a very big stretch going into this Dickinson event. I think that he will be able to go in, have a good competition for himself, but also for the Waynesburg team. I think they're going to stretch past that 307 point. A lot more runners are available this weekend than they were this past weekend. So a lot of different guys are going to be going in for the men's side. When it goes to the women's side, I think they're just going to continue to improve. Belleville, Hepburn, Severett, all competitors that are going to be getting a lot more time and a lot more experience throughout this year.
All right, let's switch over to golf now. What do you want to talk about first, men's or women's? I'll let you pick, Joe.
Let's go with the women's.
Let's go with the women's. All right, they beat Carlo. Well, Carlo did not have enough players to finish the match. They only had 3, so Waynesburg got the automatic win. But, Joe, who did we kind of see be successful in this matchup against Carlo?
On the women's side, you really got to look at the strokes that are going into it as a team. 463. That's pretty good on the women's side of the ball. You had Avery Davis, which led the team with 101 strokes. Allison Wallen, who had 106. Abigail Noble with 113. So that's really good on the women's side of the ball. You're looking at those low 100s, maybe even into the 90s. For Carlo, Macy Loring, she took away the 90th strokes. She took away medalist honors during that event. So really, for the team overall, this was a good time for them to get out there, experience on a different course, experience in different conditions, and they did that well. Yeah,
and then they got the Franciscan Fall Invitational coming up. Anything we really going to see out of that?
The big thing, along with the men's side, they're both going to Franciscan this Saturday at Steubenville Country Club. It's a 71 par overall, very narrow course, but very long as well, very straightforward. Not a whole lot of dog legs left or right. just very straight in general. So for this team, for the men's and women's, they're pretty much just going to be shooting like they would if they were at the swing lab here at the university. So for them, I would just see them going in. They're definitely going to get lower scores, at least in my opinion, especially at the Steubenville Country Club.
All right, now let's go over to the men's side. They've had a couple of matches since we've last been on here. La Roche, Carlo, Golden Eagles. What's your biggest takeaway out of these three that we had over this last week?
The biggest takeaway is that they just keep getting better. At the Golden Eagles Invitational, now granted there were 6 teams that were there, they finished 4th, but as a team, they continue to get better as long as individual, because that's the whole point, is that you play better as an individual, the team gets better overall. Matthew Carpeel notched just 75 and finished runner-up at the Golden Eagles, and then at the Carlo, he finished with a 79 and earned medalist honors. So although he was 4 strokes back, he still finished medalist at the Carlo. Then you looked at Brady Donovan, who finished with a 93 at the Golden Eagles Invitational and then finished with an 88 at Carlo. So they continue to get better along with each other. So it's not just as a team, but it's also the individual aspect.
Yeah, well, let's move over to the women's tennis. They're 3-3 right now. That's the best record they've had since 2014. They just came off a doubleheader against La Roche, winning both of those games 6-1, or matches, 6-1, and then had a loss to St. Vincent earlier. So this is a better start we've seen from them. Who has really been standing out, Joe?
The big standouts is Julia Corey, both on the doubles aspect, but also on the singles aspect. She was in her singles play, she had a straight set victory, 6-2 and 6-3 against St. Vincent. And then she was with Castella Zudali that led the charge in the doubles section. They won 3 of their doubles in both of the sets against La Roche. So they went in being 1 and 3. Now they're 3-3 after their La Roche competition. Then you also look at the comparison with Allie Bailey and Aubrey Burns, both of them being together. The ABs is what I would nickname them if I had that capability. But they went in with a 6-0 and 6-2 victory in the doubles in both sets against La Roche. So they continue to do well, and throughout the entire individual matchups, it was 6-0, 6-1, or 6-2 in their wins for La Roche. So La Roche, definitely not one of the bigger competitors like we're going to be seeing in these coming matchups, but definitely one to look forward to that has now made history with them, having their winningest season, since 2014, as you mentioned.
Yeah, and they got an upcoming matchup against Allegheny. They're undefeated. They're 4-0. They have not lost yet. They have not lost a set yet. So it's going to be a tough matchup. What can they do to get past this one?
Just continue to strive on what you've been building so far. They're 3-3. It's what they've had, as we said, best since 2014. Just continue to build off that. Now, sure, you might not have the wins going into it. You might not be able to get the team win overall, but get those individual wins. Get the doubles wins that you can, whether it's the number 6, the number 4, the number 3 spots. You definitely want to do that. Overall, collectively, as a group, all 6 competitors have been great throughout this entirety of the year so far.
Well, thank you, Joe, so much for sitting down at the desk with us to talk about all of these sports. Don't go anywhere, though. We got volleyball coming up with Ethan Spazarski. Moving on to volleyball now, we have me, Seth Adams, still your host, and Ethan Spazarski going to talk about the volleyball team. Now, they have been struggling quite a bit, 1-11. They have lost 0-3 in the last 4 matches. Ethan, thank you so much for joining me on the desk. We have a lot to talk about today.
We do.
Let's start with, how do they avoid these 3-0s? It seems like it's been pretty constant. They're not really connecting at all. What can they really do to break this streak?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is the inconsistency of play. Now, the last time I was on JSW, I made the comment to start out hot in the right direction. Slow starts, they were getting heavily outscored in the first set. Since then, it's more towards the middle part of the contest now. In the middle sets, the second, third sets, if they do go to 4, you're seeing a lot of problems there. And also the errors are just tremendous right now. They have actually had 113 errors so far. Their opponents only a total of 67, and that goes through 12 different opponents they've had thus this season. So it's just the inconsistency of play, and errors are starting to mount up a little bit. They're definitely regressing in the wrong direction from the last time I was up here. Made the comment that You know, a few little changes and this team will be fine. Again, I've mentioned dozens of times the 14 new players. This team is majority freshmen.
Yeah.
You're going to have to, a lot of the progress you made the last few years has gone away because of graduation. But right now, just that sort of inconsistency type of play is just not what you want to see.
Yeah, and it has been a true struggle for this team. It seems like there's a little bit of a lack of confidence, you can say. What can this team do to kind of bring that confidence back? What do they need to do as a team chemistry, to get this morale back up, you could say?
Well, the funny thing is the volleyball team is without a doubt one of the more tightly knit groups of all sporting teams on campus. I think anyone on campus can notice that when you're paying attention. I mean, and I think that's something really good to have. I think, first of all, just finding the right direction, a win, some sort of win, whether it's a set win, game win, period, that'll go the right direction for them because there is a lot of talent in this team. And the nice thing is, again, this is an extremely young team with a lot of future potential. But I think right now, just some sort of win goes in the right direction. They've, like you said, they've been swept the last 4 games. And overall, I mean, let's see, they've been swept, I think, 9 times this year of their 11 losses. That's just something that will probably ground up. So I'm not on the team, but if I had to take a guess, I'd say some sort of win pushes you in the right direction, takes the chip off the shoulder, then starts progressing in the right direction. Because to understand, there's a lot of new moving pieces. We weren't expecting like a PAC title this year. That wasn't in the cards, but just some sort of bettering play. And they're just in a little bit of a slump right now. And just like with any slump, you knock off the slump, you're going to find yourself in a better position.
And one of those matches that was a closer one, 3-2 loss against Bethany, is who they're playing next. Now, Ethan, what can we expect from this matchup?
Now, no matter where Waynesburg is, like the Steelers and Ravens, when Bethany and Waynesburg meet up for volleyball, it's always a close contest, no matter where either team is. For a fun fact for you, Waynesburg is 8-30 overall since 2005. However, that has not been the case in recent history since this has started. Waynesburg's actually won 2 of the last 3 matches against Bethany, with the 1 loss coming earlier this year, 3-2. I think right now, I mean, Waynesburg can compete with Bethany. There is a lot of different moving pieces. Now, where Waynesburg is right now, it's a little tricky and scary because of the little bit of the slump they're in, but overall, I mean, Bethany had their own slump this year. They started 2-2 on the year. Then they went on an 0-4 streak. Now, they have won 2 of their last 3, but Bethany just got out of the slump themselves, and they haven't swept Waynesburg in a hot minute. There hasn't been a clean sweep. Now, I will say this. Another fun fact I saw, Bethany went on a, 21-game win streak versus Waynesburg at one point. From 2013 to 2023, 19 of those 21 times Bethany swept Waynesburg. However, again, recently that has not been the case. I think this is going to be a close, well-knit contest. I think it's not going to be nothing like W&J, where Waynesburg only scored 36 total points through 3 sets and got outscored, 75-36. I do not think that is this case at all. Bethany is not that type of caliber of team. Bethany is only 4-7 overall. Yeah. It's not like they're an exceptional team, so I'm expecting a close match. I think especially with it being against the Bison, with where Bethany and Waynesburg are athletically very similar in a lot of sports, I think you're going to see a close-knit contest.
So even though they have been struggling a little bit, who have been some players in your eyes who have kind of stood out from among the rest? Someone, maybe a freshman that has been showing that what they got, or a vet that's been here a while. Who do you think has really been cementing themselves in this season as a player?
Well, I'll tell you what, I've announced a few different volleyball games, and every time I talk to Coach Johnston, it's clear to me she always brings up a few names. Mallory Boyd is a freshman she's constantly bringing up. Mallory Boyd averaging just under 2 kills a set, has a total, she's continuously offensively being moved to that outside hitter position, kind of what you're seeing with Christina Zadrozny. Another name to look forward to is Christina Zadrozny, without a doubt, the backbone, the foundation of the Waynesburg offense, averaging all the most kills per set on the team, almost 3 kills per set. And I think someone else, some other senior leadership, Riley Ruffley as well. She already has 184 assists on the year. She eclipsed at 1,000th assist mark, kind of like what Jordan Stein was defensively with Diggs. Riley Ruffley is with offense and setting up her teammates. I think Audrey Work, a junior transfer, also needs to be mentioned because she's been very consistent in a time of inconsistency that's reigned supreme. I think the consistency from her has been great. So there are shining stars. And I also think it's nice to see a lot of the names that for a while were held on the bench because of the senior talent, the upperclassmen talent of the last few years.
And what do you want to see, final question, what do you want to see out of this team at the end of the year? So we're about midway through, maybe a little past it. How do you want to see this team finish out this season?
I think for me, just first of all, not being swept, because there have been a few different situations where Waynesburg's got swept, but if you look at the set numbers, it's close. It's not like they're getting blown out of the water like W&J. That W&J game that's a variable. That is not what is happening on this season. I think overall, if you're looking at it, just consistently playing, being consistent throughout, not lacking, and then limiting the attacking errors. A lot of serves that aren't going your way, making sure you get it over that net to allow your team a chance to offensively be dominant. I think those are the two biggest things, limiting the attacking errors and really pushing forwards consistency. This team can do that. Now, again, not a PC championship year, but there is a lot of shining potential. Pieces just need to follow. They need to be a little more consistent, and things will start to right the ship.
Well, thank you, Ethan, for talking about volleyball with us. A lot of good stuff there, but don't go anywhere. We got Michael McKenzie talking about Waynesburg football's big win last Saturday. Welcome back into JSW. Huge win for the football team, a 35-27 win against Hiram. I'm still on the desk, Seth Adams, and to talk about that first win this year is Michael McKenzie. Now, Mike, Zane Cawley, man, what else can we say? A big performance from him.
I mean, big day. The stats do tell. Sometimes they don't tell you the whole story, but I think the stats are going to tell you the story.
They tell you the whole story.
They're going to tell you the story of how good Zane Cawley was last Saturday. 29 carries, 230 yards. Also contributed a little bit in the passing game. 3 catches for 28 yards. 3 rushing touchdowns on the day. Cawley just a monster. And that's really what we've been waiting to see. The first 2 games of the season against John Carroll and Dickinson, those are 2 quality opponents that really keyed in on stopping the run. They committed to containing Zane Cawley. Hiram tried to do it, but this was a game where Waynesburg's offensive line really dominated in the trenches. They created running lanes for Cawley, and if you can get Cawley to that second level, he is really hard to bring down, and we saw that on Saturday. So just a big day for Zane Cawley. That's what this Waynesburg offense is going to be predicated around when they're putting up big days, 35 points, all the yards they had. Zane Cawley, the big contributor. That's what we're going to see when Waynesburg plays winning football. Big numbers for Zane Cawley.
And another offensive player, Luke Hudson. We saw him start. Now break down that performance a little bit different. We've been seeing Tommy Burke for a while. Now we see Luke Hudson. The quarterback position seems to be kind of in the air, but break that down. What do you think on that?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see both Hudson and Burke playing in all 10 games this season, but I thought Hudson did exactly what you need a Waynesburg starting quarterback to do.
Yes, I 100% agree.
17 for 19. Didn't make any crucial mistakes through the air. A couple of passing touchdowns, 174 yards through the air. But the main thing is he was accurate and he didn't put the ball in harm's way. That's exactly what you need to do.
No
you don't need to go out there and win the game. Put up 300 yards passing and 3 touchdowns every single game. You just need to be accurate, high completion percentage, do not put the ball in harm's way, and that's exactly what Luke Hudson did. That's winning football for this team.
Now let's switch over to the defense. You wanted to talk about this defensive line. They put up a couple of sacks, had a way better performance in the first 2 weeks. Talk about that.
6 TFLs and 4 sacks, and they were in the backfield almost all day. Specifically, Ishak Adam, who had a 1.5 TFLs and 1.5 sacks in the game. He was in the backfield all day long, and that was another area where Waynesburg dominated in this game in the trenches, both offensively and defensively. They were in the backfield. They were forcing Tejada to scramble, have to roll right, either run himself or try to create on the run, but 4 times he gets brought down to the ground. Again, those 6 TFLs. There was nowhere to run for this Hiram running game. I think they averaged just a little over 2 yards per carry offensively. They had to do all their damage through the air, and that's a testament to how good that Waynesburg front, specifically that defensive line, led by Ishak Adam, how good they were against Hiram. They deserve a big shout-out for the win.
And you mentioned it, though. They had to switch to the passing game, which was pretty effective for Hiram. They had 439 yards in the air, a couple of touchdowns as well. This defensive back room, it seems like they're struggling a little bit, letting up some really big splash plays. What do they need to do to avoid that?
I think that they need to hold up a little bit longer in coverage. I don't know if they go to zone or they go to man, what they're more comfortable with defensively, specifically in that secondary. Shout out to Marcus Crum Jr., 2 picks,
interceptions,
and the game-winning interception in the waning moments of the game. But overall, again, 439 passing yards and 3 passing touchdowns, 169 of those received by Kevin Dykes, who had a really big day, the number 1 receiver. He was the name that everybody circled for Hiram. If they're going to have a big offensive day, he's going to do a lot of work in the receiving game, and he did. It's mainly you got to key in on the guys that you know are going to make plays, that have made plays in the past. Dykes was a big part of Hiram's Week 2 win against Oberlin. He was a big part of this game and got them back into it in the fourth quarter. It was a game that we thought was put away at 35-14. And all of a sudden, Hiram made it 35-27 and had the ball in the final seconds of the game. I think it's about keying in on the guys you know are going to be the playmakers and just holding up in coverage a second or two longer, because we saw that defensive line get into the backfield. If they can get pressure like that, you hold up for a second or two longer, 439 yards can easily go down below 300.
And you mentioned it, the game got a little bit rocky at the end. We thought it was put away. We thought that Waynesburg had the for sure win. But it got to a point where they're in the red zone and they have a chance to score. They're down by 8. It's a one-score game. And I'm like, how did we get to this situation? What really happened? What kind of fell apart that made this team not finish the way that we wanted them to?
I think it was a combination of what we just talked about, the secondary. It was an easy day passing in the fourth quarter, at least for Hiram. But it was also Hiram's defense being able to key in on stopping the run. There was no threat to throw the ball in the fourth quarter. Why would there be? Waynesburg got multiple scores in the game. Cauley running for 230 yards in the game. I just think there was no threat to throw the ball. So you throw 7, 8 Terrier defenders in the box, especially against these bunch power sets for Waynesburg. It was easy to get stops, get 3 and outs, force punts, and then, like we said, the secondary just kind of broke apart there in that fourth quarter. It was a combination of those two things, I thought.
Yeah, well, we got Teal coming up this Saturday. Another very winnable game for Waynesburg. Who are we looking for in this one?
I think that it's going to be the same thing. Zane
I think
Cauley
so,
and a
too.
little bit of Carson Shriver as well. I want to shout out Carson Shriver, who had about 5 yards per carry in the win for Waynesburg. But you look at Teal's games this season. They gave up 255 rushing yards last week against Allegheny in their opening conference game. Week 1 against Concordia, they gave up 135 rushing yards. Week 2 against Adrian, in a 70-point loss, they gave up 260 rushing yards. That bodes well for Waynesburg. This is a perfect matchup for the Jackets. Teal struggles mightily against the run. Waynesburg wants to establish the run early and often. You get Zane Cauley about 15, 20 touches going into halftime. I think he's going to rack up the yards, both rushing and maybe if you involve him a little bit in the screen game. Luke Hudson, if he starts for Waynesburg, just do the same things. Don't put the ball in harm's way. Accurate passes. Just do your job, really. Play winning football if you're Luke Hudson. And then, again, they're going to feed Zane Cauley in this game, as they should be, because Teal struggles to stop the run.
And I feel like this split of the conference has really been super beneficial for Waynesburg. They're playing teams like Hiram, Teal, Bethany, St. Vincent. How important is it that they get those games in the conference and are kind of avoiding those bigger dog teams like Case Western?
I mean, that's huge for your record. You look at the conference schedule, I think there's only going to be 2 games where Waynesburg's major underdogs in, and that's their rivalry game against Washington and Jefferson and their game against Grove City. Every other game, not only is it winnable, I think other than the Geneva game, Waynesburg should be favored to win that game. I think they're favored to win against Teal this week. St. Vincent and Bethany later in the season, they'll be favored to win those games. That's huge for record purposes for Waynesburg, for a team that came into the season. The goal was clear, cut, and dry. Get to 500. I think they have a really good shot to do that.
Thank you, Michael, for giving us all the details on Waynesburg football. We got a lot to unpack, but we got a Zane Cauley interview with Ethan Zwazarski coming up, and then after that, soccer with Luke Andrusik.
Ladies and gentlemen, here with a post-game interview with our player of the game, Zane Cauley. Zane Cauley, 230-plus rushing yards, 3 total touchdowns on the day for him. Zane, a bit of a slow start through the first 2 weeks of the year with an injury, but you came out today. What's going through your mind right now as you came off of a very clutch win with the team?
I just want to start with thanking my 5-0 linemen because it starts with them. But I started the year with a hamstring injury, pulled hamstring. But Monday through Friday throughout the week, I'm just going to athletic training and just doing constant treatment to get my hamstring ready to go for this game on Saturday. And it went out, it played well, and we put it together. So
That was roughly near a 4-hour rain delay. That's a lot of time for you guys to be in the locker room. I know last year with W&J, 2.5 hours was long, but what goes on in that locker room? How did you keep the mentality up? Because when you boys came out, there was a lot of energy and a lot of cheering, and you guys were ready to come play in the second half.
Well, first of all, thanks to our supporters because they kept bringing in snacks and feeding us because we were all in there hungry. So we just got to eat. We actually got a second to sit there, talk over some things. They put the film out for the first half, so we were able to look at that and just go over certain things we need to execute and fix the small things to go out and put up the score up there.
So now, next week on the road at Teal, how do you as a running back, but also you as a team, reel from this and move forward, and especially to go 2-0 in the conference?
I think it's just sticking with our game plan, sticking with what we're good at, just going out day in and day out. Like last week, leading up to this game, we had a really good week of practice. So it's really just those days leading up to the game that's going to give us that result on Saturday. So.
Ladies and gentlemen, Zane Cauley, well over 200 rushing yards on the day, 3 touchdowns. Our player of the game here on the Waynesburg University Sports Network. Thank you for watching.
Oh, I didn't see you there. I'm Mia Hinkins, and welcome to Buell Hall, home of Waynesburg University's Department of Communication. If you visit our campus, you'll have the opportunity to attend some comm classes, enjoy lunch with our students, and watch us in action. We hope to see you here soon at Waynesburg University.
To schedule your personal visit, go to waynesburg.edu/admissions/schedule-visit. Come grow with us at Waynesburg University.
Welcome into our last segment here on JSW. We're talking soccer, the men's and the women's side. Both have had a very successful start to the season, and with me to talk about it, I have Luke Andrusik. Now, Luke, let's talk about this women's team first. They have been absolutely outstanding. 6-1, only loss was to Pitt Greensburg, but they've outscored their opponents 36-2. They got their first conference game tonight as we film this. This will come out tomorrow as Thursday, but today is Wednesday. What can they do to get ready for Westminster, who has not won a game yet?
Well, we're heading into PAC play after 7 non-conference games, and as you said, a PAC leading 36 goals have been scored by this women's Yellow Jacket team, and only have allowed 2 goals so far. They play Westminster tonight as we speak, the night we speak. This is Wednesday. This will come out on Thursday. This is a Westminster team that went 9-0-1 in PAC play last year. However, they lost their top 3 scorers, 3 seniors last season, and they're 0-4-2 going into tonight. I expect a shutout. I expect all 4 goalkeepers to play just like it has been going for the Waynesburg women's soccer team, and I expect a lot of goals for the Yellow Jackets tonight.
And obviously, this is a team sport, and a lot of players have contributed to this excellent offense. But let's also talk about that excellent defense too. Only allowing 2 goals. But who are some players that you really think have been standouts in this whole successful sweep?
Obviously, you have the Amanda Pepes, you have the Jules Moorbachers, the Regan Mittendorfs, all those people who are really scoring. But I think you really got to look at the goalies. They've gone through 4, as I've mentioned. You know, Alexis Greenleaf, Emily Beck, all these. Alex Frankus has also been in net a little bit. They have played it really well, only allowing 2 goals. You know, that's
it's
2 goals,
very tough
and
to
they're
do.
not allowing many shots either.
No.
So the defense has been playing really well. Girls like Abby and Googie has been really good on the defensive side for Waynesburg. So I think if they keep that going, this is going to be a fun PAC slate, fun year to watch the Yellow Jackets.
I think so too. Now we're going to transition over to the men's side. The men's side, they have been just as successful, They've won 5 games in a row. They're 5-2, 5-game winning streak. They had a win against La Roche 2-1, a game that was played at probably 10 o'clock at night because of the rain delay that we experienced last Saturday after the football game. But this men's team, talk about the La Roche game, a 2-1 win, a huge kind of confidence booster as well. What can we see from this team from that La Roche game?
I mean, we see this electrifying offense that we've seen from this Waynesburg team still going on. Zachary Johnson scored his 6th goal, assisted by Darren Gomez for their first goal of the game. And then Nick Bryan, the midfielder, scored his 2nd goal, assisted by Nick Angle, who already has 5 assists and 3 goals in just his first 7 games as a collegiate soccer player here at Waynesburg. They won by only allowing 3 shots, so the defense, as loyal as the offense, has been staggering, not allowing any shots to even go towards the net, with Devin Patel in there, who's been amazing.
Yeah, and they also play Westminster, right? Doubleheader playing tonight as we film this. What do we expect from them? Their Westminster team has not won a game either.
No.
Both of their soccer teams have been struggling while we have been on the higher end. But what can we see from this game?
Like you said, Westminster 0-6-1 right now. The past 2 times these teams have met, Waynesburg has won 5-3 both times. Last season's matchup, Sarpong Kwabia netted 2 goals. They ended up winning that game. Waynesburg has scored 22 goals, which is tied for the most in the PAC so far this season, and allowed only 2 goals. Westminster has only scored 2 goals, or they haven't even allowed 2 goals. Waynesburg has allowed 8 goals, which is the 3rd least in the PAC so far. Westminster allowing 20 goals so far, second most. So if you just look at the stats right there, and as you said, Spose said earlier, or not, it wasn't Spose. Who was it? It was Mike. He said, stats don't lie. I feel like the stats won't lie here. I think Waynesburg is going to blow out on both sides, especially here.
Yeah.
See a couple goals from Sarpong, maybe Zach, maybe guys like Nick Angle. We'll see.
So let's talk about some sneaky players, some players that you feel are kind of under the radar, who haven't really put up like the stat numbers like you said, but have kind of implemented themselves into this whole team. For either men or women's, who do you think has really been kind of an outlier? But like, has it been noticed?
I'm going to say just the depth overall, because if you look at the box scores of these games, if you look at the season stats, every single player on the roster who has been healthy has at least made an appearance so far in the season. So if you have that many guys, soccer is a long game, 90 minutes, and you're constantly running around. If you have all those depth pieces that you can keep circling in, and it's not like normal pro soccer where you sub in a guy, you sub him out, you can't come back in. These people can keep subbing back in, and the more depth you have on both teams, the more, and it's showing 5-2, 6-1, both teams. The depth is what I'm gonna have to say.
So we're just getting into conference play now, right? This is our first game playing tonight. How do you think this team is going to handle overall as we get into conference play? Because non-conference is a big difference than conference. You sometimes play some really teams in non-conference. Does this team have the capability to be one of the best? Both sides, the men's and women, do they have the capability of being one of the best teams in the PAC?
Now, obviously, it's a big difference. The PAC's teams are usually going to be better, but there's also some worse PAC teams that they're going to dominate. You're not going to see, like Waynesburg women's team, they won 15-0 the other day. You're not going to see games like that. You're not going to see these big blowouts, 8-0, stuff like that. It's going to be closer games, but this Waynesburg team is fast, and they know how to score goals, especially on the women's side. Those Jules Moorbacher and Amanda Pepe are lethal shooters. They will both snipe goals for the Yellow Jackets. And on the men's side, we've talked about the goal scorers already. We've talked about how electrifying these offenses are and how little this Waynesburg team has allowed shots. Waynesburg has only faced 72 shots so far this season in 7 games. That's about 10-ish a game. And when you have guys like Devin Patel, who's only allowed 5 goals, 22 saves on the season, he's 5-1, only allowing 0.81 goals allowed a game. So if they continue to have this staggering defense, which leads into that electrifying offense, I think this Waynesburg team has a shot to go deep into the PAC playoffs.
Well, thank you, Luke, for joining us, talking about all the soccer details that we need to know. And thank you all for watching. Thank you to all our other analysts and our producers. We'll see you next time on Jacket Sports Weekly.
This has been a production of Waynesburg Community Television.